Welcome, boys and girls, to episode 15 of Rail Talk. We are so excited to have you. My name is Joe Bianca. I'm an ownership advisor at West Point Thoroughbreds. And guys, you know what my new favorite show is on TV? The Golden Bachelor. It's so heartfelt and funny, and I'm not usually a Bachelor guy, but it's just so interesting having the older people do it. And I have a good idea for a Golden Bachelorette in a couple of years. Our producer, Patty Wolf.
Wow. You know what? When you say her name 3 times, she shows up on the show, Joe. You understand that, right? It's like Beetlejuice. Hey, Jonathan Green, general manager of DJ Stable. And Joe, it's show number 15, and I'm excited about it, but I can't wait for show 16.
What? Why? Why, John?
Because we're going to be 30,000 feet in the air when we do it.
Oh, okay. You gotta let the people in on that part. Right. Yeah. So next week we're recording a show from the plane on the way to the Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita. But first, we have a winner for our contest from last week, guessing Joe or John. And it's Anna Sims, who is here in the studio audience right now. Anna, welcome to this shit show.
Thank you.
Right.
We're so excited to have you. And I think that there was a specific reason that you submitted. And I think you and John have a connection here.
Oh, well, I was fortunate enough to be in on a partnership that pinhooked a filly a couple years ago. And John might remember her name. It's Leave No Trace.
Oh, yeah. She beat us.
Yes,
she beat us once. I remember.
Unfortunately,
Yep.
You beat us the second time, but...
That's a good enough motivating factor to get you on the stage and behind the curtain with us. So Anna, thanks for submitting, and let's do the show. Welcome to another episode of Rail Talk. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel as we strive to keep bringing you consistent, honest, and transparent and funny industry content. Rail Talk is sponsored by Fasig-Tipton. Fasig-Tipton Kentucky October Yearling sale is going on right now. Super sale, and I think underrated sale as well on the calendar. There's a lot of great stakes horses, graded stakes horses that come out of this sale. It's a 4-day sale. It's wrapping up right now. John, it was bidding on a horse today. I don't want you to spill any state secrets here in terms of who you were bidding on, but what attracts you to this sale in the first place?
Well, I think, Joe, you hit the nail on the head. There are so many good underdeveloped horses because they're born late or because they're just later developing, kind of like you and me, and they hit their strides later on in life. And the October sale gives them the venue and the opportunity to have 6 to 8 weeks to grow and develop more. And you're seeing it based on the averages and the medians that again are breaking records. The sale has developed and morphed into almost a second September sale. I mean, it has 1,600 horses, and the averages and the medians are constantly going up. And when I was talking to Boyd Browning, the head of Fasig-Tipton, the other day, he said, the problem isn't housing all these good horses and everything. It's that we only have one cover, and we can only put 6 to 8 horses on graded horses on each of the covers. They're going to have like double covers pretty soon, because that's how many graded stake winners come out of this October sale, including Can Group, who's running against you guys in the juvenile turf next week. I got
a quick fix to that cover problem. Just put John Green on the cover every year. That's a tried and true. He's the most famous, well-recognized, loved man in all of horse racing. So I think it makes sense to just have him there every year. You can get a different headshot of him every year. But also wanted to mention, after I get that image out of my head, we've got some more supplements to the Fasig-Tipton November sale. So we're what are we, a week and a half away from the Fasig November sale, which will take place November 7th. There was a graded stakes winner named Haughty. You remember Haughty? She went wire to wire in the Lake Placid Stakes as a 3-year-old. She was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, beaten less than a length for Chad Brown and Peter Brandt. So she was supplemented to the Fasig November sale. We got a couple of other ones as well I wanted to mention. We have Practica Cat, who was a Chilean mare, who was a group stakes winner at 2, group 1 placed at 3, multiple stakes producer. We've got My Lady, who was a stakes winner at 2 and a group stakes winner at 3 in Europe. She was placed in the German Oak. She won the Very One Stakes at Gulfstream Park in March earlier this year. So she's a really nice horse. Got a couple other weanlings by Into Mischief, Authentic. So as always, keep checking the catalog. Every week there's going to be more supplemented entries leading up to that sale date, November 7th. It's going to be a ton of quality as you can imagine, but you definitely want to be up to date on all the horses from top to bottom of the catalog. Great job for everybody at Fasig, as always, at the Fasig October Yearling sale, and we'll see you soon at Fasig November. There's some happenings in the last week or so with Heisa and Haiwu, which is the enforcement unit of the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act. There was a great story by our friend T.D. Thornton in last week's TDN on Friday about trainer John Pimental, who he and his wife have an 8-horse stable, and basically, to hear them tell it, Heisa, former FBI agents basically kicked their doors in. After they found one of their horses tested positive for meth, and then they were allowed to search the stable and search their truck, and they found basically some thyroxine, which is a banned substance, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. And they suspended them provisionally for 3 years, 18 months for each violation, a fine of $25,000. Now, this story has taken a little bit of a turn because as it was publicized, the Pimentals got a lot of support from people in the industry because it came out that that John Pimental basically just signed an admittance of wrongdoing because they didn't have the money or the wherewithal to fight the case, and basically that now they want to rescind that. Now that they've gotten a lot of support from the industry, they've even been a GoFundMe set up for them because they're a small stable and this was their livelihood. And it's a tricky thing because we're all in favor of more stepped up enforcement and more strict enforcement of drug policy in this country and in this racing environment. But I do think you have to have a little bit of common sense with these things. You got to look at the context of the violation. The horse finished last. John Pimental had no other violations on his record, I think, except for one. Got fined one time for $100 for not having a full certificate. Like, that was it. Other than that, even including that, that's a spotless record. And this is not the kind of guy who deserves the Jason Service or the Jorge Navarro treatment of the feds coming through basically and uprooting them and kicking them out. I'm not saying that they shouldn't face any kind of penalty for the violation, but I just think you got to have a little bit more common sense in that. These are not the people that we're after. Obviously, it's good that we have a system that can adjudicate these things, but if you're kicking out people who are won for their last 46, are basically 10% trainers throughout their entire career, have had no evidence of wrongdoing throughout their career, I think you got to approach it a little bit differently than you would someone that you have great suspicions about and great evidence against that they're abusing horses or drugging horses. I feel two ways about it, but I just think a little more tact and a little less jackbootery would have been good in this case. John, what do you think?
Joe, you hit the major points. I think that in this case, if the Pimentals were cheating, they were doing a terrible job at it because they just weren't winning races. And two quality people, from what I understand, have been in the business forever and a day, and just people trying to do the right thing on a day in, day out basis. Joe, that being said, I'm just going to shift for a minute to one of the things that they came back with, the Pimentals came back with, and that was the quote unquote good guy defense. Hey, we're good people. Hey, we've never done anything wrong. Hey, I can give you, lists of people that would back me. And that's wonderful that they've earned that, and they have earned it. And they have a stellar reputation from my understanding. But the good guy defense doesn't work in this instance because, there were apparently lines of people that were writing letters of recommendation for Jason Service and Jorge Navarro. And they admitted to and are now, serving time for doing bad things. So to me, you can't have, hey, I'm a good guy, you got to look the other way. That being said, I think Heisa's main goal has been and should be to go after these bigger outfits that are really the ones that are that were that we want to attack. I don't think anyone's going to miss either way, or I shouldn't say that. I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, thank God Heisa came in and busted down the doors for the Pimentals because they were cheating at such a high rate and they're horrible for the industry. I mean, I could literally name 300 people ahead of them that I think that, that we would want to look after. Now, was the situation where, Haiwu came in and said, hey, we can kind of roll over some people, and maybe they know of people, the Pimentals, that because they've been in the business for so long, maybe they do know of people who are cheating, and if we kind of pin them down, then maybe, but I know that's an awful lot of money to try to chase somebody that had 5 horses and a 10% win percentage.
Yeah, I mean, that was the other thing, too, that was a little bit disturbing in TD's original story was that, apparently, according to Diane Pimental, they said that the Heisa officers or the Haiwu officers were basically like, listen, if you can give us information on some other people, we'll take it easy on you. Cut that shit out. Right now, like do not start doing that. Start shaking down low percentage trainers to try to get to the big fish. Like that's not the way to go about it. So I think if that is true, then that was a big mistake and a faux pas. Listen, like it's imperative that in this environment that people have the chance to defend themselves. That to me is also like one of the major issues and the crux of the issue here. Not even necessarily the original penalty, even though you might think it was severe, especially for a guy with no history. It's that if they feel like they didn't have the means to defend themselves, so then they basically signed a false confession, and that kind of coercion to me is not okay. And you basically, I think that they're taking steps to kind of address that. Alan Foreman, who we have a ton of respect for, he works for the THA. He's executive director for the THA. He's one of the most respected attorneys in all of racing. And they appointed him to work and give pro bono advice to people in these instances on how to address and appeal the charges if necessary. So I think that that's great. Lisa Lazarus also wrote an op-ed saying that they're going to have a program for trainers below a certain income level where they have a lineup of pro bono lawyers that can work for them. That's great if that's true, although I wonder how you're going to define the income level and where that line is going to be drawn. I just think, like I said, common sense. Like this was not the guy to come kicking the doors in.
Right.
Like you have to look at context. And this is another one where it would help to have some horse players on some of the panels. Like I'm not saying the horse players don't have their own biases, but you call up any horse player who's familiar with this trainer and be like, what the hell are you talking about? It had to have been contamination. Like this is not a guy who cheats. So I get that they want to apply the law evenly, which I think is, a noble pursuit because you don't, as John said, you don't want a situation where it's like, oh, well, people vouch for this guy, so he's got to be good. Let him off the hook. But I just think you have to be a little bit more sensitive to these things. Are they able to pay for an attorney? Don't start doing what the IRS does and start busting low level people for mistakes on their tax returns and not going after the big fish. Don't do that just because it's easier and because you're not going to get into a lengthy court fight about it if you go after the little guys, and just have some sense in terms of the people's history and the context behind it. So I think, everybody wants to yell and scream and be pro Heisa or anti Heisa and like wants to fight about this. But I think there's nuance here. Like the system, I think overall is positive, and we're going to get to some of the positive developments. But I do think you have to have recourse for people, especially smaller trainers who don't have histories of drug violations or cheating.
Right. And Joe, just 2 more quick things. And I think it's more of a side story than what we've been talking about. It's wonderful that the industry came together and said, we're going to fund and we're going to put some money together for a defense fund, for this situation. I think what would be even better is if they had a GoFundMe and bought them some horses, and actually gave them a chance to train and have a chance to make some money next, which is great. I mean, if you have all these people that are behind you and want to help you, buy them some freaking horses. I'm not saying you have to buy them from Fasig-Tipton, but just buy them some horses so that way they can do what they do best, which is train horses. That's number one. And number two is that there was a silver lining out of this in the sense that, when the horses got taken away, there was one horse who was claimed and then had to be returned because of an issue. And basically was like being left there at the barn, because the Pimentals were not allowed back on the racetrack. They were not allowed back there. I know the horse was being taken care of, but it was our very own Lauren Carlisle who spearheaded the opportunity and the thought to bring what we call Go Lovkin, the $5,000 claimer, to safety and brought the horse down. She got some money together from some people. They arranged to have the horse, brought down to Kentucky, and now he's going to live his best life in a farm, in Kentucky. And quite frankly, it's best for him. It's best for the horse that it turned out this way. But kudos to Lauren Carlisle and Black Dog Bloodstock for spearheading this, this deal of getting Go back into a better place.
Yep, absolutely. Major shout out to Lauren and Black Dog Bloodstock and all the people who stepped in to help those horses. That's another thing is like the idea that the horses had to be like out of their barn ASAP, right. Like that to me is very counterproductive. Like it's one thing to say you can't enter any horses or you can't, officially work out any horses, but like to come through and be like, you got to get rid of your horses, within however many hours, like that's counterproductive in the pursuit of protecting the animals, which is what this is supposed to be all about. That's supposed to be the overarching mission here. And if you take a trainer and you kick all their horses out of their barns without providing like a transitional way to relocate them, like I think you can kind of be, aiding and abetting the problem rather than the solution in that case. So a little more common sense in these instances. I like that we have tough enforcement, but come on, like you gotta know who the real villains are in this sport. And it wasn't these people. I do want to mention something that I saw that was positive, and a couple positive things actually in the news that make me, a little bit more optimistic about the future of racing. Heisa is going to start working with Amazon Web Services to use data analytics and machine learning and AI to reduce equine injuries. Now, there's a lot of fancy words in this press release, so I'm not going to go through it. It's a lot of corporate speak and jargon, but basically this is something that's been happening in every major sport. Amazon Web Services started working with the NFL to do analytics and really help the team's game plan and all that stuff. This is more noble than that. And this is the idea that we can really find out whether there's correlation or causation in a lot of things that people say cause breakdowns in horses, whether it's racing them too early or racing them on muddy surfaces, or, there's a lot of factors that go into explaining when a track has, an array of breakdowns over a short amount of time. But this is how you address that kind of thing, is getting as much data as possible. And, the biometric sensor technology is a big part of that as well. And that to me is one of the great advances of Heisa potentially, is to have that central data gathering operation to figure out what the fuck is going on and how we can get breakdowns down to as close to zero as possible. John, what did you think about this?
Right. Well, Joe, I think it's another example of Heisa being proactive. And, did they have a vision for everything that's going on? It sounds like it, which is great, because that's something that we've been clamoring for years and years. Are they bringing us kicking and screaming into the 21st century? Yeah, pretty much, with these analytics. But if it's going to save, one horse, or it's going to save one catastrophic injury, or, make it safer for all the athletes that are involved in racing, then kudos to them for doing it and for implementing that kind of data analysis. Again, say what you want about Heisa, good, bad, you like it, you don't like it. Lisa Lazarus is being very proactive, right down to writing the op-ed piece. She got out in front of it and basically said, look, these are the things we're trying to do to make sure that the smaller trainers don't get screwed if they can't afford an attorney. So, we're all trying to make things better. Would it be perfect if we got it right out of the gate, and got it 100%? Yeah, but that's not reality, because we're dealing with people. So, so the reality is just continue to try to make it better. And this is another example of Heisa taking the lead and trying to make things safer for the athletes.
Yeah, and like you said, dragging people kicking and screaming into the 21st century, because this is the kind of thing that other sports have been using for years and years and years. And like I said, this is a much more noble mission than, just trying to win a game. We're trying to keep horses alive. To that end, I want to give a major shout out, and I think this is the first time I've ever done that in my history of podcasts, to the NTRA. Actually, no, I like the NTRA. The NTRA did a great job lobbying for the Kentucky historical horse racing machines, as well as changing the tax rules for horse players. So I'm just kidding in that regard. They do some good work, but I was waiting for them to do some, positive PR work and just show the progress that the industry's been making, because you can't just be a lobbying firm. You got to do some marketing and do some PR as well. And they put up a great page. I suggest you go see it if you haven't already. It's at ntra.com/safety. And the big title is Safety Takes the Lead, Striving to Keep Our Athletes Safe. There's a message from the NTRA CEO, Tom Rooney, at the top. And then there's these little subheads about progress, Heisa, technology, aftercare. And you can click through to see all of the progress that's being made on horse safety. You can see the breakdown, the fatality rate going down. They put the big, pretty chart up there. They talk about California, which was obviously a major success story in the industry over the last 5 years, going from 1.78 to 0.75 in terms of fatalities per 1,000 starts. They talk about all the great aftercare organizations that are out there with links to their email and their website so you can support them. They talk about the technology that's being put in, the PET scans, the biometrics, the data analysis that I just mentioned. And thank you guys. Thank you so much for stepping up and doing that, because that's what we need. We need that kind of repository to point people towards critics and, people who are anti-racing, or people who are just curious and have heard bad things about the way horses are treated. This is something to point them to say, look, here's all we're doing in a pretty page with different subsections. This is your primer for the fact that racing is actually doing something to make its horses safer. And I was blown away when I saw that. Like, I don't think that this should be a huge ask, but no one's done it up until this point. And I'm so happy to have that resource to point people towards. Rail Talk is sponsored by TaylorMade. TaylorMade is the worldwide leader in thoroughbred sales, marketing, and horse care. Family owned and operated since 1976. They care for their customers and their team members and their horses, especially like their family. They always look for a better way to do things. They have fun. We loved having Mark Taylor on the show over the summer, and they've got a big consignment coming up at both the Keeneland November and the Fasig-Tipton November sale. So we have been waiting to talk to this guest. We're so excited to bring her on. She's a reporter and analyst for FanDuel TV and TVG. She's also an exercise rider and assistant trainer for her father, Patrick Biancone. Andie Biancone, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so stoked to have you on. So, I love your work. First of all, we'll get into a little bit of what you do for FanDuel and what you do at the barns, because it's all very fascinating. But this is our Breeders' Cup preview show officially. So you tell us, as someone, especially with someone with knowledge of racing across the world, who should we be most excited to watch / bet on at this year's Breeders' Cup?
Just gushing over the lineup of horses we have coming into the Breeders' Cup. Just so stacked in every aspect. Obviously, every year is, but I do feel like we have some special stars. Arcangelo, obviously, going into the Breeders' Cup Classic. Very excited for Jenna Antonucci. She's an incredible horsewoman. Actually had a chance to gallop horses for her a couple Keenelands ago, and she was really fun to work with. So it's always fun to root on your friends. But tons of other horses to look. I know Maj, who won the QE2 here. They were looking at running her. Obviously, this is a half sister to Modern Games. They were looking to run her in either the mile or the filly and mare turf, but she was very impressive in the QE2. I know she's a 3-year-old, but she just has such a presence about her. Watching her walk around the paddock, she's very commanding. Not a big filly, but just the way she acts, has a very big personality, big attitude. So I'm quite excited to see her again. Obviously Up to the Mark was impressive at Keeneland. Tamara, daughter of Beholder, basically mini Beholder. That's going to be a really exciting juvenile fillies. Obviously all the good sprinters, Cody's Wish, all these horses. It's going to be good. I'm excited.
Yeah, those are broad questions. So you did well. Go ahead, John.
There's definitely a lot of feel-good stories coming
Get
into
ready,
the Breeders' Cup, which is
bring out the tissues, ugly crying the whole way. That'll be me. It's just so emotional. Obviously huge day of gambling and just great wagering opportunities everywhere in every place. But I'm there for the stories.
Right.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And Andie, I gotta compliment you that, there's a lot of people who are on air professionals that go to the paddock and they always say the same thing. Oh, this horse is on its toes. Oh, I talked to the trainer and the horse couldn't be training any better. But you've actually gone on and have actually said in a nice way, like, I don't think this horse looks that great, or this horse isn't warming up that well. And you're one of the few, if not the only, and Joe backed me up on this, that actually calls horses out sometimes that are favorites. And you're like, I'm not really sure about this. Why? What gives you the confidence to say that where other people maybe aren't as forthright?
First of all, thank you. I really appreciate the compliment. But, horses they're living creatures. They change and they tell you how they're feeling. Being around them, as a trainer, or I know I've never trained, but, just being an assistant, you have to pick up on these little changes, these little nuances. They tell you how they're feeling via their coat, the way they're moving, their enthusiasm, their expressions, the vibe. Like, I know that sounds really lame, but like the vibe, horse racing is all vibes. It's all vibes, and vibes are good. It's good. It sounds weird, but and some days, especially if I know a horse well, like I've seen them before, that's really helpful. I'm really weird. Like, I can't tell like older white males apart, but like horses, it's so weird to say, but like truly, I grew up.
You're in the wrong business then.
Well, I grew up in Arcadia, California, which is like primarily Asian. So like Asian people I'm fine, like just older white men. I'm like, who are you? But horses, if I see a horse, like I'll never forget it. Like I can remember, I'll be like, oh yeah, I saw that horse a month ago and it looks better today, or it looked, or not as good. And then obviously just you have like baseline standard, what you look for in the paddock, like the enthusiasm, the energy levels. I'm not hard confirmation critic, although I'm really hard on feet and testicles. Like seriously, if there's 2-year-old boy race and there's some funky looking nuts, like out. Yeah. Or same with feet. I'm really critical about feet. Like horses have to be properly shod, balanced. Like those are the two really quote comfort. If I see a horse at a sale that's toed in or toed out, obviously you don't really want to buy that horse, but if they're toed in or toed out at the race, they've already made it there. Like they don't know they're toed in or toed out. So it's not as much as a heavy hitter for me versus like feet or, their energy, their vibe, the confidence they have, the strut, like their horses shine, and they shine from the inside out. When they're doing well, they're healthy, they literally glow. They radiate, the dapples shine from underneath, and yeah, you can really see when a horse is doing well.
Yeah, it's all about vibes for millennials like me, you, and John Green up there. We're all about the vibes. So, I mean, I love your content because, like, your enthusiasm for the horses shines through brilliantly. Like, in the TV work, the social videos. I've even seen you get a smile out of someone like Steve Asmussen, which is like... you should get like a gold medal for shit like that because that's not easy to do. But I'm gonna switch it a little bit because there has been a lot of up and downs in racing for the last few years. So how do you stay so positive? Is it being around the horses all the time? Just what keeps your vibes positive?
All the time. Plain and simple. The horses are everything to me. Like even I've been pretty open about my mental health and whatnot, and in high school, I really fell into the wrong crowd. I had a terrible eating disorder, wasn't really doing great. And my dad just literally pulled me out of there and threw me on the backside. And, it's been a dream come true. You can't have a bad day when you wake up and do something that you love, so I truly love it. The horses they're magical. They're the closest thing we have to magic. I know that sounds so cheesy, but just working with them, looking at them, getting to know, and each horse is an individual. So getting to know them and figuring them out, even at the races, although I don't get to work with every single horse that I see on the racetrack closely, you see little stories that you just want to root for. I remember years ago, not years ago, maybe last year, Safi Joseph had a horse. I can't remember his name, but he was the sweetest horse ever, but terrified of the big screen at Gulfstream. And like multiple times, like would bolt to the outside rail. And apparently like this horse was so kind, so nice. It was a kitten's joy. I just don't remember his name. And then Jeremiah O'Dwyer claimed him and like tried to work with him, like brought him to Gulfstream to breeze, like put an inside blinker, like just trying to get him over the big screen. And then he ended up going to other tracks and being successful. And he was like supposed to run at Churchill Downs this last fall. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited to see this horse run. Like this was the horse that was scared of the big screen. And then he like didn't end up running, I think, because Churchill Downs has a massive big screen. So like, you get to know the quirks of these horses and it becomes easy to root for them, like in so many circumstances. You can find a story in every single race, and getting to know the horses on a deeper level, I think it's so special.
Yeah, absolutely. And John, I'm going to toss it to you in a second, but I have a short story about that because I was taking a partner out to the barns the other day at Belmont. She had never been to the backstretch before over there, and she saw one of her horses and she was petting her and spent some time with her. And then I just heard like that exhale being around the horses. It's so therapeutic. Like you could just hear like the stress melt off her. And that's something that I've learned being closer to the horses, being at West Point. Sorry, John, go ahead.
No, I think that,
Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Andy, if you want to continue on that.
It's so special. Even when you're riding a horse, like if obviously there's a level of, with any athletic, anything, there's a level of stress, right? So horses, sometimes they feel stress. And like as a rider, like teaching them to settle, getting them past little fears that they have, showing them that they can do it, that it will be okay. Like, and watching them just develop with that, knowing that they can do it. It's pretty cool. Like you'll be on a horse, like jogging by the gate or whatever, and they'll be a little bit like, oh, what is that? Like big thing, scary thing. And you're just like, and they'll do it back. Like seriously, I'll be like,
yeah.
And then they'll be like, and you're like, see, we're all good here. Like it's all, it's great. It's therapeutic for sure.
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely is, and when you have that synergy with the horse, there's nothing like it. Especially because you're actually riding them, you can feel when they're relaxed, when they're in stride, when they're feeling good, when they're off a day. We've all had off days, waking up in the morning, and it's great that you're able to feel that. Do you think that down the road you're gonna follow in Dad's footsteps and train, or do you think you're gonna stay in a different part of the industry?
Myself training from a young age, like I honestly. FanDuel like miraculously plucked me off the backside one day. I never expected to do anything with broadcasting. I would love to train one day. I think that's still a goal of mine. But right now, I honestly really enjoy broadcasting. I love talking to people and sharing how special our sport is because, it really is, like I said, the closest thing we have to magic. And I love looking at horses every day and just it's almost like an opportunity to get connected to more horses and feel more stories versus like when you're training, you have your horses, so I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I'm taking it day by day, one step at a time. Yeah.
There you go. No, that makes sense. And Joe, let me just jump one more question. So Andy, with all the rule changes and everything that Heisas implemented, how has that changed what you do on a daily basis?
It hasn't changed much. There's some protocols, obviously, like vet checks and things like that, but I think it's all necessary. I think Heisa, the idea is great. I do think like we need a uniform standard protocol on every racetrack. But obviously it's a work in progress. They're still working out the kinks, and I think we have to be patient with the system. Obviously, when you try to implement something new, there's going to be a lot of pushback, but I don't think the idea of Heisa is bad. I just think that the kinks need to be worked out, and they obviously need to work with the horsemen because at the end of the day, the horsemen are the people who have the most knowledge about what's going on. But I think the idea is great, like to make the game as fair as possible. If you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to be worried about, plain and simple,
Right. Yep.
Facts. Yeah. We just want a level playing field. Like that's what everybody wants. I mentioned
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
unpopular opinion, but I'm not like a Heisa hater. I'm like, okay, like it's 20,
You're
You're in the
right
popular
camp.
it's
opinion on this show.
2023. You have
Yeah.
to register online. Oh my gosh, like it's
I know,
20.
right? Yeah, I know. You think you're taking their firstborn away
Yeah.
with, oh no, now I have to do more computer play. It's like it's easier now, but yeah, like Joe said, all we want is a fair opportunity. I mean, the horse industry is hard enough. It's hard enough to win as it is, on an uneven playing field, or as Joe likes to say, on a meritocracy. No, I still didn't get it right. But it's so hard to win anyway. So why not try to make it as fair as possible, so that way everyone has
And
a
fair for the
chance
horses.
to hit the wire first.
Exactly. So, like I said, some kinks need to be worked out. I know they're still, playing with medication withdrawals and standardizing all of that, which is normal. Like this is kind of the burnt cookies trial and error period. But hopefully in like 10 years, it'll be a really good thing. But hopefully sooner than 10
Yeah,
years.
no,
But,
I think you
you know,
even sooner than
yeah.
that. I hope. Yeah, but so I mentioned how much I love your social videos and all that, because I think you're just doing what you love, but I think you're inadvertently a great marketer for the sport in that way, and showing the connection between human and horse and how fun it is. This is a sport that has not done well, I think, marketing wise over time. And I like to ask this question, especially of young people and people who are forward facing like you. You must have some ideas about what racing could do better to market itself.
Appreciate that. I mean, honestly, I think the point that people forget is that this is not an easy industry to work in. Like I literally do work 12 hours a day most days. Like I haven't taken a day off in 2 years. Like I got sick, like I've had sick days, but from being overworked, but you do it because you love it. And at the end of the day, like the care for the horse, it doesn't matter how cold you are, how hungry you are, like the horse is getting taken care of first. Like their needs come before yours in every way, every day, no matter what. you know, Christmas, New Year's, like at my dad's barn, you get Christmas or New Year's off. We pick amongst the people. Uh, but somebody has to be there every single day. It's animal welfare. So people don't realize that. And I think also, people don't realize like we talked about earlier, like the magic that is horses and, overall, like the overwhelming love that this community has for the animal. Obviously, there's good and bad people in every industry, but I think the good people far outweigh the bad. And, no industry is perfect, but
Totally.
even just like looking at horse racing as a whole, like you'll never see horses who are so well taken care of. Their feet are done, 6 to 8 weeks. They are shod. They are well fed. Like the best feed, they get acupuncture, they get massage therapy, they get to go outside and train every day and a routine, and they go back home and they get to sleep all day. It's like dogs are the same way. Like, what do you take your dog out for 2 hours and 2 hour? Imagine a dog that gets like walked 2 hours every day and then just like goes home and chills. Like, I don't know, you put Diamond Oops out in a field for like 20 minutes and he's at the fence screaming like, hey, I want to come home now. Where's my fan? Like people think that these horses just want to be like outside. Like, no, they're stars. They want to be pampered and attended to, and they're used to literally being catered to. So, I think it's important to kind of highlight that it's a labor of love. It's a labor intensive industry, but the horses do love what they're doing for the most part. And if they don't, like, what do? We find them a second career, because it's really not profitable for anybody to have a horse who's just miserable and not performing. It's not good for them. It's not good for the connection. So move them on to like a second career as a hunter jumper or trail horse, Western horse, whatever. I think
Yep.
there's like that's where things get misconstrued, is that people just think that we're forcing these horses to run when really it's a labor of love. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one of the first times I was in Kentucky, I saw a pickup truck at the racetrack, and it said, "Today is National Horse Stall Cleaning Day." And I thought that was hysterical, because it's like every day you're out there doing, no matter what, rain, sleet, holidays. So I'm going to shift gears on you for a second. I'm on a board with your dad. And it's a big board. There's like 14 people on it. And one of the things I've learned from your father that always makes me laugh is he lets everybody talk about a topic and exhaust themselves. And at the very end, he'll be like, no, I think that's bullshit. And then give his answer. And everyone's like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. But that's like, is that the way he's always been? Has he always been like very kind of patient and waiting and then basically be like, yes, that's a good idea, or no, that's okay. Give me an example.
Let's see. He's just a great example of my dad in a nutshell is this is a bit off topic, but like cute guy, this little old man who works for this tack shop was like driving through the parking lot. My dad just like cuts across the parking lot and almost hits him. And I'm just like, what are you doing? And then the next day the guy came in the office and was like, Patrick, like you almost hit me. My dad's just like with a cigarette. He's like, it's because you drive like shit. And I'm just like, or like, you know, so a lot of people like with race horses, people will like trank them like as an aid, you know, give like half an ACE pill or whatever, just to help take the stress off some horses, rider safety. If you have a horse coming back off it's not been training enough for a couple days or has been walking for a couple days, they'll trank them on the first day back just to make sure nobody gets hurt, everybody's fine. And my dad is like super old school. He's like the biggest anti-tranker ever. Like he'd rather see you PBR die than like trank a horse. And like, I don't know. I remember one day at Del Mar, like with the hurricane, we had just claimed a filly and she had been walking for a couple days. She's like a very high energy filly. And I'm like, Dad, like, you think I could like, trank her a little bit just so she's like chill? And he's like, Andie, you don't need trank, you need confidence. I'm like, she's like sky leaping through the air. I'm just like hanging on for dear life. I'm like, I don't need trank, I need confidence. So that's him.
That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah. I'm confident. Just yell at the horse. I'm confident.
I'm trying. Yeah. So that's him.
I can do this. Man. All right. That's one more question for me. It's like a little out of left field, but you do a lot of handicapping for the Hong Kong Jockey Club for Hong Kong racing. That's on my bucket list, is to be able to go to Happy Valley and go see those races. A, have you been? And B, what have you learned through that process, getting to know that product?
I was actually born in Hong Kong. And and my grandma lives there. So I haven't been back since COVID, but we used to go every December. I'd go and spend 2 weeks with my grandma. So I've always gone to Hong Kong. I've actually never been to Shelton or Happy Valley because A, you have to be 18 to go. So like when I was constantly like traveling, a lot of the times I was in high school, whatever. So I didn't go to the races. And then after high school, I just, I'd go spend time with my grandma. I wouldn't really go to the races. But Hong Kong racing is such a lucrative, like for gamblers, it's very lucrative because it's the same pool of horses. It's a small group, but a really quality group of horses. You can kind of get to know at their levels very easily. The Hong Kong Jockey Club is so open about everything. Like if a horse has mucus, if they are treated with an antibiotic, if they walk, like you have all this information at your disposal. It's almost like too much information. It can be a bit like, whoa, system overload. But a really lucrative place to gamble because the handicaps make it so much fun. Honestly, you see horses lose by 2 lengths and they carry 56 kilograms. Okay, well, the next time it runs, it gets like 2 kilograms off. It carries 54 and it only lost by 2 lengths and it's running against the same horses. Like that horse is probably one to look at, So I think it's really fun. And like I said, you just have so much information at your disposal over there that really makes it enjoyable, especially if you're a horse person who kind of knows like what's going on. But yeah, all in all, I think they have fantastic horses out there. It's been fun getting to dip my toes in their circuit a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's great. Like I said, bucket list thing for me. John?
I'm good, Andie. I can't thank you enough.
That was chock full of laughs and fun. We want to leave on a high note. Andie, thanks so much for coming on, and please come back either as a guest or as a co-host. We'd love to have you back.
Thanks so much, guys. This was so much fun. Thanks again.
What a fun time we had with Andie Biancone. We would love to have her back, and maybe as a third host for this show. But you know who's going to be a really good third host next week? our buddy Len Green from the Green Group. If you're not using the Green Group to help you with taxes, you're definitely paying too much money. They have over 800 clients in the horse business. They know the horse business because they're successful industry insiders. They've been owners for more than 40 years, have owned some of the top horses in racing and breeding, including Wonder Wheel, who's going to sell through TaylorMade at Fasig-Tipton November. Sponsor Troika. I got all three in one sponsorship read. But seriously, Len is the man. I'm so excited to have some time with him on the flight out to California next week. Len Green will consult with potential clients for free. He's going to review your latest returns. If you can't find you more savings, he'll say, A-okay, keep doing what you're doing, but he's usually going to find you some savings. And a consultation with him is more fun than that. He's a leading voice in entrepreneurship as well. He taught at the Babson School. He's got all these books and lectures. He did a great job on the West Point Tax Seminar last week with our CFO, Lindsay Human. So shout out to Len for doing that. We love the man and the myth that is Len Green. We love his son too, if not quite as much. We're going to be, the three of us are going to be together on the plane next week. Hijinks will ensue. But in the meantime, go to greenco.com so Len and the Green Group can help you with all your tax needs. Welcome to the first installment of, we hope, many segments called Pedigree Corner. And we have the perfect guy to join us for Pedigree Corner as we near the Breeders' Cup. He's the bloodstock manager at Arion Pedigrees. Grateful to have his sponsorship and Arion sponsorship on the show. Andrew Stewart, welcome back.
Thanks very much, guys. It's great to be back again.
Oh, good to have you, and your audio is better already. I know this is going to be a dream. So yeah, we got the Breeders' Cup coming up, and I always, I look to guys like you, especially when it comes to the Euro participation and horses trying new things for the first time, because especially with the 2-year-olds, you get horses switching surfaces, stretching out in distance, to wit. West Point is in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. We have a horse named Carson's Run, so I have an interest in this. And I think the favorite, it seems right now, is going to be one of the Aidan O'Brien's, River Tiber, who has been pretty brilliant so far, has placed in a couple of Group 1s, but he hasn't been a route yet. He hasn't been 2 turns. He's by Wooten Bassett, who obviously is a terrific sire, out of an Arcano mare. Andrew, if you had to look at that pedigree, I'm sure you've looked at it further back than I have, do you think he's going to excel going 2 turns?
Yeah, I think so. The Wooten Bassets generally don't mind a bit of a trip. And this horse, I think he looked very good in his first 3 runs. I think in his 3rd run, he started 11-8 favourite at Royal Ascot in a 20-runner field. So obviously they had a high opinion of him. In his last 2, he's run 3rd in Group 1s behind a very, very smart 2-year-old in the UK called Van Dijk. He's probably the best 2-year-old in the UK. I don't think there's a lot of depth in this race. The turn thing is the big thing for the European horses. Most of them probably haven't been round a turn at all, especially the 2-year-olds. So that's something that they have to factor in. But I think on class, he's probably good enough to win it.
Sorry, I wanted to ask a quick follow-up, John, on that, because one of the things that I've noticed when I looked at the race is that there's no real confirmed speed except for My Boy Prince, who's a Mark Casse horse who we ran down in the summer stakes with Carson's Run. And I just never really know what to expect with the Euros. A lot of times it'll say they're in touch or in front, and it's just not the same as the American tight turn paces. Do you see any of the Euros from the pre-entries being part of that pace?
Not really, no. Not in that race, no. I think they'll tend to probably get back. I'm not 100% sure on the length of the straight on the turf straight at Santa Anita, and of course that's going to be play a big factor in where they sit in the running or where they try to sit in the running. But I can't see any of them in that race in particular sitting on the pace.
Right. And Andrew, one of the big questions that people always ask, me and Joe, is with regard to the 2-year-olds and the 5 furlong sprint, the juvenile turf sprint. And again, we have some horses coming in from out of the country. Cherry Blossom, who's a no nay never of Aidan O'Brien's. Give Me the Beat Boys, a Bungo in the Jungle, and there's another no nay never in Pearls and Rubies. When these horses come in the paddock, what should people expect? Because sometimes the Euros are a little erratic. Is the Santa Anita turf course, is there something comparable to that, that maybe any of the Euros have run in, not just these 3, but any of the Euros? Is there a racetrack, in overseas that you feel is comparable to the fast pace that they're going to have at Santa Anita?
I think the 5 furlong race is probably a little bit different to the one we were just talking about. Yeah, a horse like Big Evs. I mean, I'm all in on Big Evs. I think he's the one for this race. He's by Blue Point, who's just been a sort of a sensation as a freshman sire. He's got 41 winners, individual winners already. And I did a bit of research, and I think that the last 12 years, the best freshman sire in the US has been Gunrunner with 30 winners, and Blue Point's just sort of blown that away. I mean, they do have a lot of Tyrrell racing in the UK, but they just seem to run. And this horse, Big Evs, he just goes. He jumps from the stalls and just goes. He won at Royal Ascot over 5 furlongs. He won a Group 3 at Goodwood and a Group 2 at Doncaster at his last start, and he'll just go. And I think all the European horses are the same. They're at that distance. They're used to running on straight courses and wide courses. So again, it's possibly going to play a role in. I don't know whether the 5 furlong distance at Santa Anita, whether they've got a turn or is it straight or. So that could trip them up again. But I think those other horses that you mentioned also, they're big chances. I like Crimson Advocate, Pearls and Rubies. The No Nay Nevers just run it too as well. So I think that's going to be a really good race. But I'm all in on Big Evs.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, in terms of the racing post rate or the time form ratings, he looks like a stick out. We also are in that race at West Point with Slider, so I'm looking forward to seeing him. But it's going to be a scramble, like that 5 furlong tight turn race. Like it's a different beast, I think. And the Euros have had a lot of success in this race, but I just think it's a different beast. 5 furlongs at Santa Anita as opposed to somewhere like 5.5 at Keeneland. That lets you get into the race a little bit more. Whereas if you're out sprinted going 5 at Santa Anita, like you're pretty much done. It's going to be hard to make up a significant amount of ground in the stretch. But you touched on No Nay Never. Like, I just wanted to mention him real quick because he's been an absolute sensation as a stallion. Caravaggio is off to a really great start as well. Justify over here from Scat Daddy. Like, can you just talk about, as someone who's makes their trade and their living in this, like, have you ever seen anything like Scat Daddy having this much of an impact in, unfortunately, this limited amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, he was. I was going to mention Scat Daddy, and as you say, No Nay Never, Justify, Caravaggio, all super young sires, and it's unfortunate that we lost Scat Daddy so early, and they're not only dirt horses. They're running on turf. They're running in the UK. They're running in the US. I think the Scat Daddy line's going to be. Quite popular and quite successful, in years to come. I mean, you mentioned a horse like Justify, and we just saw the announcement of his new service fee, and he's obviously well beyond my pockets. John's probably got a few mares going to him. But,
he's about to bid on a horse, so let's see.
You could have got into him for 70,000 Australian this year. But he's made a sensational start, and of course, they're all talking City of Troy as the next Frankel in the UK, and it's not like Aidan O'Brien to really spout a horse like that, but he's possibly going to be the next big thing, and he's by Justify. Scat Daddy, I think, is certainly going to make his mark as a sire of sires.
Yep. And Andrew, I'm going to shift ahead to the Saturday card. I thought it was interesting in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. You have some really nice fillies, obviously. But what struck me was the staying power of their stallions. Curlin, Into Mischief, Uncle Mo, Blame, Flatter. Describe to our audience, what those pedigrees or what those stallions mean to you, as far as, how well those foals have raced.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert on North American pedigrees, and but anybody that sees those stallions in pedigrees knows what they bring to them, and I've always been a big fan of Curlin. Into Mischief's an interesting horse. He's by Harlan's Holiday, who you wouldn't normally think of as going to be a great sire of sires, but. He's just been phenomenal in the last 3 or 4 years. He's leading sire, and I think anybody that has an interest in pedigrees, when they see those type of horses, in those type of races, they know that they're just so successful as stallions.
Yep.
Let's get to the big races, the big turf races on Saturday. To me, it's a long list, but to me, there's one horse I'm most excited to see, aside from our horses at West Point, by the way, just in case Terry's listening, and it's in the Breeders' Cup Turf, and he's a horse I've been following all year long, Augusta Rodin. He's a 3-year-old by Deep Impact. He's just gotten better and better. He's had a couple of clunkers throughout the year, but he just won the Irish Champion Stakes. He won the Irish Derby. He won the Epsom Derby. He beat King of Steel a couple of times, and we saw what King of Steel came back to do this weekend. To me, he's a standout in a field that's very, very tough. Am I oversimplifying it? Like, how do you rate his chances, especially versus the rest of the Euros that maybe I'm not too familiar with?
Yeah, I put him on top as well. You've gone through his form. It's pretty good. The dual Derby winner, won the Irish Champion Stakes pretty comfortably last time out. As you said, a son of Deep Impact, and Deep Impact's won the last 11 Japanese sire premierships. He's just
That's amazing.
Yeah, one of those amazing horses. So I can't see them beating Auguste Rodin. King of Steel, was runner up to him in the English Derby, and won the Champion Stakes at Ascot only a week ago. So if he backs up, it'll be, I think, 3 weeks from that run. And it was pretty testing ground at Ascot as well. But he's a tough horse, so I think he's a bit of a chance. He's a Witten Bassett, and I think there's a bit of a smoky in there, and Up to the Mark, who's by not this time, a son of Giant's Causeway, and he's had a great year in North America, and I think he could be a bit of a smoky.
He's sneaky too, because I think, he got up last time in the turf mile, I think going a lot shorter than he wanted to go. I think this will be more to his liking, although maybe 12 furlongs a little bit far. Sorry, John. I just had one more other horse I wanted to ask about in that race, and that's Mostadaf, who's Shadwell stable color bearer by Frankel, trained by John Gosden. He doesn't run all that often, but he's 10 for 16. He won the Prince of Wales by 4 lengths earlier this year, probably one of the best performances in all of Europe all year long. Followed that up with a win in the Juddmonte International. How do you rate him, Andrew?
Yeah, I think he's a definite definite chance in the race. As you say, one of the Frankels and one of the 2 Frankels in the entries. I do like him. I've just got a leaning towards the other horse, the Coolmore horse, but I think he's definitely in the money.
Yep. And Andrew, I'm going to shift gears on you to talk a little bit about some pedigree analysis. Now is the time where breeders are starting to look for genes and nicks and what works well with their mares, especially with the upcoming big sales coming up. You have no idea the toy that you gave me when you gave me access to your website, because I literally have run probably 40 or 50 theoretical foals, which is what I really love to do. And if we bred this to this, and what would happen if we bred Mage to this mare and Justify to this mare, and it's just phenomenal. You give me 5 or 6 or 7 different generations, so I can see if there's duplicates and crosses and everything like that. As far as the which product somebody should use with regard to doing this hypothetical matings, what do you recommend?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you've sort of got it. You've nailed it there. It's very good for producing, as you say, a theoretical. What will the catalogue pedigree look like? What will the 7x7 look like? Where are the nicks and where are the crosses? So I think that's a great one. There are sort of different options if you're wanting to find a maternal descendants report. If you've got a mare whose fifth dam was a very good mare, you can see how many Group 1 winners have descended from that line, and that type of thing. But yeah, there's as you've seen quite a number of different broodmare style reports, and I think it's an important time of the year for you guys, especially coming into the breeding season, where that sort of information is really important.
No question about it. And Joe, just to jump in for another second, there are so many more imports that are coming, especially on the mare side. And not to knock our pedigree analysis or our catalog pages, but you guys lay it out so much better as far as international and what that would mean, and the crosses, and also the catalog page. And for somebody like me that we've been bringing over some fillies from Ireland and from England, it's invaluable because as much as I like to pretend, I don't know the pedigrees. So that's why I was asking about which of the products we should use. If somebody is going to buy a European mare, and they wanted to search and see, what Scat Daddy line stallions are out there, what's the best use of the website for that?
You can run, statistics with Beth progeny. You can run Nix reports, which, and you can run a grid-based Nix report, basically putting Scat Daddy in as the grandsire and the sire of your mare in the bottom line. Or there's the non-grid based Nix reports where you can stick in a couple of stallions and get reports like that. So, there are a lot of options there. I think a lot of the staying blood has gone out of the North American pedigrees. And I think, you're right where, some of those strong European families, I think will prove very successful in the North America. I mean, you got to just look at that. We talked about the fillies and mares, the distaff, and some of those strong European families who are racing quite successfully in North America. And there's a couple in the filly and mare turf out of Australian bred mares. And I think that's another advantage of the way the thoroughbred world is really so small. There are pedigrees from everywhere and cropping up everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely shrinking. And we appreciate you coming on and giving us some context for all of those intertwined pedigrees, as we go on and we, like you say, the world is shrinking. Definitely give me a couple of horses that you have your eyes on for the Breeders' Cup who might be a bigger price than horses like Augusta Rodin and Inspiral. Is there anybody who's going to be a price that you would like?
And Andrew, these are your guaranteed picks, right? These are guaranteed to win.
We should back on the show if none of them win.
Well, I think you've got to look at all the Japanese horses because I don't think any of the best Japanese horses in each division are probably going to feature. But I think there are a couple of smokies. Like Songline is she's a very smart mare. She's by Deep Impact's best sire son in Kazuna, and I think she's a bit of a chance. In the turf sprint, there's a horse called Jasper Crone. He's by Frosted, but he's a Japanese horse, and he might be just good enough to win that race. He's won a couple of graded races in Japan this year, and he was fourth in the Sprinters Stakes, which is probably the best sprint race in Japan. I think the turf sprint's quite open, quite even. Caravel, of course, won it last year, but I'd definitely keep an eye out for the Japanese horses. I mean, they just pop up everywhere and win everything, basically.
You're hitching your wagon to the right star with your guaranteed selection. So, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on and shedding some light on this stuff for us, and we'll hope to talk to you again soon after the Breeders' Cup.
Thanks very much, guys. It was great to do it.
So as we mentioned in the open, we have a winner from our contest to figure out Joe or John. She got 8 out of 10 right. So, I mean, that's pretty damn good because John himself said he could only get 7 out of 10 right. Anna Sims, thank you so much for entering the contest and winning and coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a treat.
We're so stoked to have you, and we're glad you're having fun. But just tell the audience a little bit about you and what you do.
I am a veterinarian, and I live in Virginia. On the horse side of things, I'm a very small-scale owner and breeder, and look forward to anything horse racing related.
Yep, and those are the exact kind of people that we're looking for to watch Real Talk and to be part of the festivities. So we appreciate you coming on, and we're glad you're having a good time. But now we want to get to the other responses, because apparently some people did not quite do quite as well as Anna and took the time to compliment / insult me and John. Patty, what do you got?
Well, I was going to get to that, but should I give the real answers for anyone?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, wait a second. Before you get to the real answers, I want to know from Anna, Who do you like listening to better? Is it Joe or do you like listening better to me? Because you said you listen, you don't watch. I know who I would rather watch, but who do you rather listen?
It's a tie, you guys.
Oh, boo!
Oh, no, that's a good answer.
It's just
My heart
less
couldn't take it.
patty, less patty.
It's a dead heat. Sorry.
It's a dead heat. Very well done. All right. Sorry, Patricia.
Wow, I
Go ahead.
didn't know we had someone as smart as a veterinarian listening.
I know, right?
That's amazing.
Good thing we didn't have to talk about horse anatomy at all today, because I would have embarrassed myself. Go ahead, Patty.
Or anything. Okay. Here are the answers and my whole correction sheet of everybody's answers. Okay, number 1, once broke up with a girl in Psych 101 lecture class. That was in fact John, but 75% of our respondents thought it was Joe. And I got it right.
Probably because A, Joe had a girlfriend, and B, Joe actually went to class. So they weren't wrong. I mean, I get why they would pick that.
Number
John
2.
had to beat the girls off with a stick. Don't worry.
Exactly.
Number 2, ran the 100 meters in 10.2 seconds is, drumroll, John. And 75% of our respondents said it was Joe.
It was Joe.
Anna got that. It was one of the 2 that Anna got wrong. But right now, John's proof that he ran the 100 meters in 10.2 seconds is this video that he made his loving wife, Michelle, do. Michelle, we're so sorry. He put you up to this.
When John was in high school, he ran 100 meters in 10.2 seconds.
By the way, I think you need more than one witness for like a Guinness Book of World Records, which
It wasn't a Guinness Book of World Record for God's
for
sake.
you, it was basically that level of feat. I think we need more than one witness. But anyway, go ahead,
And
Pat.
let's face it, Anna's a doctor, and she said no way.
Right, I know. But you know Michelle would never lie. Michelle can't lie to save her life. So
She got every other answer right. I mean, but one more. And she
Catch John at next year's OBS March sale, breezing a furlong. 9-4.
I wouldn't pass the drug test.
Oh boy.
Oh, God.
All right,
All right.
number 3, won an award for photography at a major museum's exhibit. Most everybody but Skip Anderson picked Joe, and that was the correct answer.
Yes, at the Brooklyn Museum when I was just
Really?
a tyke.
First job was in construction. Joe.
Does everyone just say me for everything?
Everyone saw John. Nobody saw John.
Joe.
Nobody saw John.
John's lived a sheltered life, obviously.
Got a
Didn't do
concussion
anything.
in high school.
They're just giving people what they want. Joe all the time.
But Joe all the time.
Got a concussion in high school and was told to shake off the cobwebs and get back in the game. Almost everybody picked John, and it was in fact John. So
See, that was like a little bit of a hint because that's an old timey thing to tell someone when they have a head injury. Now you couldn't do that.
No, but also it's the later effects of the concussion that make me the way I am. So
favorite ice cream flavor is cookie dough. That was a great one because the audience split down the middle, but it is in fact John. John's favorite thing is ice cream is cookie dough. Number 7, allergic to eggs. The answer is Joe. Again,
Wow, it's
the
a tough
audience
life.
split on that. Yeah. Number 8, hit 2 home runs in my first Little League baseball game. That's so cute. It's like an 8-year-old. That's just so cute. It's split, but the answer is Joe.
Yeah, I'm still holding on to that accomplishment.
wasn't that 2 years ago, Joe, when you were playing in
I mean, you ever watch Married with Children and Al Bundy's like, remembering his high? I go further back. I go all the way back to when I was in Pee Wee to pat myself on the back.
Okay, here's another one. I'm sorry. Some of these just sound like little boy answers. It's so cute. Was in the stadium when my favorite hockey team won the Stanley Cup. Is John. That everybody.
See, that's an easy one too. If you know I'm a Rangers fan, because Rangers have won. The Red Devils have won a lot more recently than the Rangers.
Yeah.
John, what must it be like?
It was actually a phenomenal thrill. It was one of the few times in my life where I absolutely couldn't hear myself think like that. You know that saying that was actually true. It was so loud in the stadium, and nobody sat down in the entire third period.
Oh, I just thought of another one for mine.
Yeah,
Okay.
We're not doing
yours.
Next one.
We're not doing yours, Patty.
Not
We're not
doing
doing
it
yours.
now.
but-
It's in another month. I just thought of another life event that's actually interesting.
That's right.
All right.
Dated a New York Rangers hockey player.
No. No.
True or false? Okay.
I can't even give you the hockey player ones because I'm not
Got
giving any more
herpes
away.
from a New York Rangers hockey player.
Refer to your notes. Anna and I have never had herpes. Material was,
And aren't we so glad you're on camera for this?
material was covered in class. Okay, last one. Went ziplining in West Virginia, and this was the second answer that Anna got wrong. It was, in fact, John, who went ziplining in West Virginia.
Yep.
Very good.
I actually have family in West Virginia, and we went ziplining, and it was the most fun I've ever had outside of a racetrack.
Wow, even more fun than the Devils winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it almost was because this was death defying. Like I almost died on it.
For death-defying stunts, that's pretty lame, but that's fine. I'm glad you had fun.
I went ziplining in Costa Rica and got stuck right in the middle.
That's
see
my
that.
worst nightmare.
They had to shake
see
the
that.
thing to move
Were
my.
your feet on the ground at that point?
No,
Patty?
I was way in a high thing, like over a big valley, so it was really far down. And I was so fat, I just stopped the thing.
That's why I was asking if you were down. Did you start to go down? Did the gravity kick in? And
Like the line was like a triangle, and I was just there in the middle. All right, so here's Steph, our great Steph Q Justify, our show's best friend, Steph. She gives her answers, and she'll put the person she's picking and her reason for it. Number one was to break the girl's heart. It was John, and she said, "I didn't think Joe would ever break a girl's heart." Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet.
but John obviously would.
Ran the 100 meters. She guessed John correctly, and she said John is sneaky quick. Number 3 won an award for photography. She said Joe for sure.
Oh,
You're coming out good so far.
nice.
But
So
here's,
far,
here's where I think we take a turn. Number 4, first job in construction. Joe looks better in a hard hat.
I'm gonna have to wear a hard hat now.
I
That's
was
sweet.
like, what? Stay in your lane, Joe. Just
That's
stay,
right.
stay in that.
Joe, do you have the rest of the village people? The rest of the village people costumes?
Don't
Just
wear
the
a
hard-
suit, Joe, or a tie. Stay in a hard hat. 5 got a concussion in high school. She got John. She said, who would be rude to John? Number 6, she picked Joe for cookie dough ice cream. Nothing bad. She picked you for egg. She was doing pretty good there. Number 8, Joe, I think you get hit a little here. She says, hits 2 home runs in my Little League game. She puts John, sticking with John as the athlete. Ooh.
She wouldn't be wrong. She would not be wrong about that.
I mean, but she guessed the 100-meter thing
Oh,
correctly.
here's
So at least there's consistency
the
there.
next big one. Here's the next. It was in the stadium of my favorite hockey team. John, Joe couldn't afford those tickets. What?
That's the best answer. That's the best answer.
She's not wrong.
And then she picked you for the zip lining. She said Joe seems more outdoorsy.
So Joe is outdoorsy and poor and allergic to eggs. And I'm sneaky quick and love and cookie dough.
And I just want to say, if I could say 2 more lines before I take myself off the show. Number 1 is that this week, another friend of the show, Skip Anderson, Baba Acres, wanted to sponsor a contest. We'll put that on Twitter, and it's he puts the 14 Breeders' Cup races, the person who picks the most winners. There are some nice prizes. He bought a Breeders' Cup tumbler, a Breeders' Cup waxed hat, plus maybe a couple of Rail Talk items thrown in. But Skip is sponsoring that, and we're going to help promote it. So that's another contest. And I mean, if the audience calls for it, I want to, one of these weeks, give my life facts.
Yes, no, we're going to do that. We're 100% going to do that. Patty's lived a more interesting life than both of us combined. We're doing it.
the winner will produce the show for a week. So those are my little announcements. Let me get out of here. Thanks.
Patty, wait, before you get out of here, that means when they produce, that means they tell us what we have to do, right? So we would have to do it because we're minions.
You guys never listen to me, so.
All right.
They just have to sit here and be abused like me. That's pretty much it.
There you go. Way to sell the contest, Patty.
We got the producer who never wants to be on air, who's somehow still always.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, you should have showered before she did this. Okay. All right. I'm out of here.
All right. So we're doing Patty's This Is Your Life next. In the meantime, thank you everybody for submitting your answers, and especially from the broke outdoorsman and the heartbreaking athlete, Anna Sims. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Rail Talk. If you like this episode, and how could you not, be sure to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel to be the first to know when new episodes drop. You'll find weekly podcast episodes, blooper reels, and one-on-one interviews in our Breakaway Rail Talk series. Be sure to leave us a like and a comment below. We love talking to you guys, and who knows, you might just end up on one of our shows. All right, so that's going to do it for a jam-packed edition of Rail Talk. We got into the Breeders' Cup a little bit today. We're going to do more next week on the show on the plane with Len Green and Arion and the rest of the misfits that are heading out to California, try to win a couple of Breeders' Cup trophies. Cannot wait for that. Thank you to Andie Biancone for stopping by. Thank you to Anna Sims for submitting her winning results in the Joe or John contest. We hope we didn't scare her away and hope she had a good time. Thank you to our producer, Patty Wolf. Thank you to our associate producers, Anthony LaRocca, Aaliyah LaRocca, and Nathan Wilkinson. Thank you to the sponsors, Fasig-Tipton, The Green Group, TaylorMade, Arion Pedigrees, and Black Dog Bloodstock. That roster keeps growing, and we could not be more stoked about that fact. And thank you to you, the viewers and the listeners, for tuning in this week. We'll see you next week from the flight to the Breeders' Cup.